Lamar Sykes on today, and it's kind of a little different. We're just kind of doing an impromptu because of a little project you're working on. So you actually came down from Cleveland,
Yes,
kind of
sir.
hooked up for some photographs and some opportunities. You and I have been having this conversation for quite some time, just about the podcast and about the projects you're working on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the pretty unique things you're doing in media,
Yes, sir.
and maybe you tell us a little about what you got going on up in Cleveland and online.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So, I have a platform called Sky High Sports, and it started in Cleveland, of course, because that's where I reside now. I'm native of Youngstown, of course. Cheney grad, 2005. Started out just me, COVID. It was COVID time. I was stuck in the house. Before that, I had started doing photography probably about 10 years ago. And I just needed to get out of the house. And so I was like, maybe I can go photograph some football games or something like that. I won't be near anybody. I'll get to do some photography, things of that nature. And I started with Cheney. I came down, drove down to Youngstown, asked, I forget who I asked, Rob Kearns was the principal at Cheney at the time. I just said, hey, can I come down, get some photos of the kids? I'll give them to you. I just want access to the field. And from that point, it just sort of took off. Like I got really good at the sports photos really fast, and so I started doing that first couple games at Cheney, not this past season, the season before last, and I started shooting at Bedford as well. And from there, I just started to, the kids liked the pictures. I started posting them. I said, hey, maybe this could grow. And within a year, like now I have like a whole media platform because of just the coverage, the ways that I would present my photos, the ways that I would try to like develop stories and things of that nature. And so now I'm to the point where I have my own digital magazine, and now I get the opportunity to do a feature story on Coach Berdis and the podcast, something that really inspired me, in the past, since this summer. I think this summer was when I first became aware of the podcast. Um, and yeah, so I mean, long and short, just impromptu. Like I got Sky High Sports media platform, not just covering Cleveland, but as much of Northeast Ohio as possible. Football, basketball, track primarily. Digital magazine, social media page, primarily on Instagram, and soon we'll be launching a Sky High Sports Network, which is in the Mighty Network community, and hopefully we can bring as much coverage and stories, not just game recaps and things of that nature. I want to really develop a platform where we're telling some of the great stories that, past, present, and future, Northeast Ohio sports. And one of those stories is Cheney football. So, yeah.
What do you kind of remember about playing at Cheney, playing for Coach? I was there
Mm-hmm.
through those years with you,
Yep.
so that's I think minus Keelan, I think you were the first ones on it that I'd been coaching with like through
Mm-hmm.
there. So what were some of your memories and why, um, as we've talked, this program's so important to you?
Yeah. So I say, as a when I was going through the program, I didn't realize how much it was impacting me or would impact me in the future till I was an adult, till I was became a parent, a husband, things of that nature, and just realized how the type of real life lessons that I learned while I was in the program. Under you, you were my JV coach at the time. Coach G, Coach Matt Granary was my running back coach throughout those years. But just the discipline, hard work, perseverance, resilience, like those types of things are, they're depending on the context, it can be kind of cliche, but like that program and the things that you put us through, like you really live those things out, right? We went 9-1 my junior year. That was a pretty cool season. Justin Hood at quarterback, just a great dude in general. 2004 was my last year playing. I think we went like 6-4 that year. But before that, I got to play with Keelan you know, and I had just came in, like I think Brad was gone, but just knowing like I wasn't as tuned in with like the distant past that we'll get to, you know, discuss in the article, but just some of the great players that were there in the recent past, you know, Brad and Keelan was there when I was there. People like Rick Kalinka, Fernando, who's going to be here shortly. Just looking up to those guys, just really good dudes, and you know, like I said, the conditioning program, the weight program, super strong program, like all of that stuff was cool. It's just really, even remember, I think it was our junior year, we had accountable on the back of our shirts. And that's something that always really stood out and stuck with me, like, for the rest of my life, is like accountability, you know, along with those things, like I said, perseverance, resilience, and things of that nature. Just, I mean, it's endless, the lessons that I learned through the program. Like I said, I wish I wasn't such a hardhead, sort of knucklehead back then, that those lessons would have set in a little bit sooner. But I'm glad that they set in when they did, and that I get the chance to sit here with both of you today. So.
Well, that's the point of it all, isn't it? You know, if we don't have young men like yourself, then, you know, we can't drive those points home.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What, you know, Ron, what do you think when you have the opportunity, you know, you see these guys as, you know, babies coming in, and then, you know, they and I don't mean like maturity, but just young men, right? And then, you know, you see them, they leave and they go on and do things, and you know, I hadn't had contact with Lamar until we got together for that Coach G benefit. And when you see guys develop and you get to sit in front of them as men, what goes through your mind?
Well, you know, I think it all comes back to the effort that they put in when they were with the program.
Yeah.
And it really is no surprise to sit here and listen to Lamar talk about, you know, what he's developed over the years, and that he's transformed into, you know, this solid businessman, if you would, or professional. It's no surprise whatsoever, because you've seen that accountability that you speak to as a player, and you know that it's just going to be, you know, you more developed, you know, beyond their years in high school. So to see the success that you're having, and to know that what a great player you were for us and committed to our program, like I said, it's great to see, but it's no surprise.
Yeah. I think for me, it's always kind of interesting, like, you know, you remember this individual as 17, 18, and then, I don't know, approaching 20 years later, right? 18 years later, you know, right? You get to sit in front of him as a man and have, you know, different conversations. It's just kind of pretty neat. And like, I did not, it's also neat to see what road people go down, like a non-traditional route,
Right.
Like doing, I didn't know you were artistic in whatever form it is, you know, watching you shoot him and have different things lined up. And was that something you were always into, or did it just
Kind of, sort of. So I used to draw when I was coming up. I recently sort of showed my daughters some of my old drawings, and they laughed at them. I used to think they were really good, but they actually weren't that good. But yes, I've always had an artistic side, but I've always been like math oriented as well. And so that leads me into my actual profession, which is data. I'm in data analytics at the moment, but the creative side, and that's sort of what makes, I believe, my platform more engaging, because I use data, I use photos, I use graphic design, all of that different stuff to make a more engaging sports experience. So it's just like now, like that I'm not chasing corporate promotions and things of that nature, and can kind of take some time to just embrace all the different parts of me, be it, you know, my past as a teenager and the seeds that were planted in me in that time, my natural skills and interests and things of that nature, just bring it all together under one umbrella. And that's actually what you see now in Sky High Sports. So always been a sports fanatic, love data, love creativity, and it all manifests in the platform now.
So I'm assuming that this is all kind of impromptu. Probably what we'll do is when this article comes out, we'll kind of drop this in conjunction.
Okay.
What can we expect from that article? What kind of direction are you thinking about going with that?
Yeah.
You don't got to give too many details, but
yeah. So I'm long-winded. So long story short, I love history as well, and this is more of a newfound thing. But just seeing the Cheney program over the last couple years, the success that they have, some of the challenges that they've had, coming back into contact with you and Coach Berdis, I feel like there needs to be a gap bridged between those two eras. This is a new era of Cheney football. You know, as much as, you know, the red and gray is still there, like it's a new era. It's a different era of the game, but I think the young folks can benefit from knowing the history and the traditions of the program. Not that they have to take them all on and recreate that, but just to know, you know. So like, I didn't know that like I said, I was there and I didn't know. I was a kid. I wasn't paying it that much attention, but just the thread that Coach Berdis has through the history, like from the beginning to now, that's beneficial to know in terms of thinking about just like a grounding of like, what is it that I'm actually doing? Like we can say, oh yeah, I love the game of football. Somebody just playing football, getting my stats. I want to go to college. But just knowing that it's deeper than the game. And so with the article, I hope to, you know, try to bridge a gap between the generations, inspire them to look in the past and the foundation and the traditions that they're actually standing on, and take that thing further. And I think knowing the history, knowing some of the people who came through the program can definitely help that, and reconnecting, right? So I think with what you're doing with the podcast, it's helping reconnect maybe some of the alumni, people from the past, to the program of today. Maybe, you know, when the program went away for, I think it was maybe like 10 years, close to 10 years, there's a gap, you know, and what would it look like to really bring that back and support these young folks the ways that I was able to experience when I was coming up, you know. So just my little piece of trying to bring that together.
Ron, do you think I know we've talked about doing that, and you've met with Seth and Casey. Do you think that maybe putting a modern spin, like the social media, the magazine, like a modern spin on some of the tradition and history, maybe that might be impactful to young kids that kind of speak that language?
Being completely backwards in that arena, I'm telling you, absolutely I do.
Yeah.
But not because I'm backwards in that arena, but that's just a matter of fact. I'm sure that the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm currently in discussion with the athletic director, Casey Bogard, about restoring some of the memorabilia that they took down when the building transitioned, and creating maybe an alumni room, maybe in that old lobby where those pictures used to be, where those, and adding the new ones. You know, certainly the entrance to the gymnasium now with the big pictures and the memorabilia they have in the trophy cases is impressive. I mean, I think it's very impressive. but the history is so long, and the current history that's being made now with these kids in the program being reborn. I think you can just keep adding to it, and it'd be a great place for reunion receptions and that type of thing.
I think it'd also be pretty neat if you could, in schools and security and stuff. I think it'd be pretty neat if it would be accessible just to be able to come in for alumni, maybe not an alumni event, but just to come in and be able to peruse and check out.
Yeah, absolutely. All the certainly that book, but there's so much more. There's back when Sienkiewicz and Pochner were playing, and Sienkiewicz, when he won the Heisman, his picture was on Life magazine. It was on Post magazine, on the cover, and I gave the administration a box that an alumni gave me, this big and this deep, of newspaper clippings from the Atlantic Constitution when Pochner and Sienkiewicz played down there. And I mean, and I suggested, get this preserved and put it in the library or whatever. But my point is to add something like that into that
museum
room.
feel. I mean, it's the capturing of, the lineage and timeline of. The other thing I was thinking about, and refresh my memory, because I remember being in there so often and looking, but I can't remember vividly. There were also the all-city pictures.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So
every year in football and basketball.
So not only is it just that Cheney piece, but the city piece. South is. I think South seems to have a fairly decent alumni association where they have like an all-class reunion. So they're still South. I'm not sure about East, but
East has a big time one.
Okay, so East, but all those things that we're talking about specifically with Cheney, and that's the reason for this podcast, right? Is once those things are gone and people don't take the time to ask questions now and explore things now, once all that knowledge is gone, it's never coming back. And so I think that there's value in a lot of those City Series pictures too, where guys, great players, great men, got on to do great things. They don't have access to some of those pictures either.
Right.
So that would be a really cool thing to put together.
And think of how many guys that aren't in the Hall of Fame because it went down for all those years are about to go in the next number of years now that it's firing up again. And how many kids that are playing now are going to be in that Hall of Fame, So that being a major part of it. And that's actually, Casey just sent me a photo the other day of he's having the 160 guys that are enshrined now, currently, put on a giant placard, permanent placard, where you can just keep adding plates to it.
Oh, okay.
That's nice.
Let me get this is Fernando. We can edit this. Hello?
Car
What's up?
broke down.
Oh my God, you're here.
No, that's if he makes it. Is he allowed to park in the drive?
If he makes it, is he allowed to park in the drive? Can he? What's that? You're fine. We can cut whatever. Can he come in?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Dope, can he park in the drive?
Yeah, she's gonna get out. She'll tell.
If you pull up. Just park in the drive, like, just pull straight up. All right.
That's my grandson, my first grandson.
Oh, jeez, look at him. Man, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Well, we'll have Lamar down here and be like, this is kind of awkward. We didn't think you were coming, so we set somebody else up.
Oh, man.
Your subs in.
Yeah, a little awkward. Oops. So what do you in terms of, and this is a question for both you guys, okay? Somebody who's been through it, and what do you look for in a Hall of Famer? So, as somebody who's going to be on the committee or at least in the conversation, and then as a guy that's interested in it, what do you look for in a Hall of Famer?
Okay, and I helped write the original bylaws. As far as the input, the qualifications, that's being relooked at now as far as how many years out and that you need to be, and
Sure.
And requirements. We want to. I don't think anything specifically was written down as far as, well, these are the requirements.
So
it was more. They were relying more on my input, Ed's input, who was a permanent member also, and Red's input, who was one of the original permanent members. As far as, kids, if quote worthiness, players' worthiness to get in. But I think something needs to be established. A criteria needs to be established. So that's what we're kicking around now and discussing. What I think is, and I've said this at meetings, and I'll say this to both of you now, you should be able to pick up that bio, whoever it is, and say, oh, yeah, of course they should be in the Hall of Fame. Okay, there shouldn't be like, I don't know. That could go either way, but there should be no doubt. I mean, don't misread what I'm saying. There could be automatics that, a guy like Brad Smith, who has phenomenal numbers and accolades. Yeah, I mean that's a no-brainer. But certainly all leagues should be an issue. That should be, at least that. And as far as someone coming in as a coach having a winning record, I mean you'd want that. So, those are just some thoughts.
Okay.
Where is the big man?
Fernando, this is awkward. We didn't.
You were an 8 to 5 dog, buddy.
We didn't think you were coming, so we had somebody fill in for you.
You're good. You're good.
How do you speaking of Hall of Fame, and how do you evaluate alignment? So we talk about stats. We talk about defensively. That's probably a little bit easier, right? Tackles, sacks, so on. But how do you evaluate an offensive lineman?
First of all, somebody has to nominate it.
Right.
Okay, so they nominate it. Now, me being one of the coaches, I say, well, certainly the input that I would bring would be, he was the best 3 technique that I ever saw. That in my coaching tenure that I ever saw. Was first team all league as a junior, as a senior, and then I would fudge some things. I'd say, well, he graded out at 90% every week, if I thought that, this was a guy that should no question be in,
And so kind of as a player, just different perspective. What would you look for in a Hall of Fame player?
That's hearing his perspective. That's definitely. I'm like, okay, that's how it. I never thought about it before, right? But as a me now, I wonder how much in addition to on field performance that we look at perhaps the things that they've done after,
it's a factor.
Community impact.
It's a factor, and it should be a factor.
Okay. Yeah. So definitely, like you said, sometimes numbers, they just kind of speak for themselves. I don't know how well stats are archived at Cheney, but because that could disqualify a lot of people if you just don't have the stats,
Which is
right?
true.
But I think a lot of people have gone on to do great things. And just in my recent research, I'm like, oh man, I didn't know that this person was from Cheney, that person was from Cheney, and they went on to coach here and done these things. It's like, wow, I mean, it's just it's incredible. So not only the on the field, but community impact and just professional progression, things of that nature. I would look at that.
What do you think they'll do in terms of how long since 2009, 10?
2009.
So do you think they'll have maybe a couple bigger classes or?
Yeah, I think probably the first class will probably be in the vicinity of 18 or 18 to 20.
Do you feel
because there's been such a lull.
Do you feel like, and I just asked this because, I know Ursuline's Hall of Fame is a huge deal. I know Mooney just had a Hall of Fame. It's a huge deal. Do you think it'll kind of take on that flavor of kind of a banquet?
Oh yeah. Okay. That's because they talked about just having a kind of a small ceremony, and I said, well, you got to look at the continuation, the projection of the event, and you make money on it. Okay, and I mentioned this to Seth and to Casey. It's a way for the committee to say maybe throw $2,000 to help feed the kids to Seth or and to the basketball coach, McGahey. Yeah. I knew that. I just wanted to make sure I was saying the name right. So yeah, if you put a small class in, you're not going to fill up the banquet hall.
And I think that's one of the things that we were talking about before any of this came on was having some sort of event. And I know we had talked about putting people, not us, but a committee, putting people up on the wall or having a Hall of Fame. And we said, that bridging of the gap, some sort of event that you can invite those players to participate in, watch, that would be a big step. And I think that's why I kind of asked about what that Hall of Fame induction might look like.
Yeah, look at what an event the Curbstone is.
Yeah,
I mean that's a pretty big deal, and the fact that Mike De Niro's going in just now this year is just mind-boggling to me. I don't know what's behind that, if anything's behind that, but he should have been an automatic, shortly after he passed. I mean,
well, right, and I think that's something we said we would talk about as we get a little closer in May. So, Lamar, appreciate it. I know we're gonna do some stuff here. You're gonna shoot some pics when we have Fernando on, and it's just I enjoy watching the stuff that you put out. I know you got a podcast now. You got I was online checking out your the Mighty Network, right? That whole piece that's fantastic, and the photos and I posted a short on I think it was either Instagram. And all your people that follow you were giving you tons of love on there. So they thought you just took pictures. They didn't know you were a player.
They didn't know I played. So I don't tell people too much. I thought I was just an average guy just on the field. But they were like, they showed me some love. They said, oh, man, he was pretty nice. I was like, all right, cool. I'll take it, But, that was pretty cool. I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah. Well, the film we have, we just try and put different people on and you circle back to some of the things you did as an athlete, and you show your kids or whatever. One day we're actually pretty decent, right?
Yeah, I try not to be the as I get a little bit older. Try not to be the guy that they say every year you're removed, you get a little bit better. Like, I try not to be that guy that's like, yeah, man, I was 2,000-yard rusher or something like. So, but that was pretty cool. I showed my wife because she didn't believe me. Well, she believed that I played. She just didn't know that I was half decent. So that was pretty cool.
There were some good highlights on there.
All these years later, and you're still wearing that accountability on your back.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. So thank you so much for having me on, and yeah, look forward to the article dropping. It should be tomorrow or Tuesday. So.
Oh wow, that quick!
It's coming quick. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Oh, we got a quick turnaround then. No, that's great.
I got a draft already. I just got to tighten it up and add a couple more quotes in there, and I'll shoot it to you within the next day or so.
Good.
For approval.
Perfect.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.